Hi, everyone. Today we are going to talk about project management and the triple constraints. If you don't know me, I'm Candace Porter. I've got a Master's of Science degree in project management from the George Washington University, and I am also a certified project management professional. I think that this is such an important topic because once you understand the triple constraints and how to manage them, it makes your life a whole lot easier as a project manager. What are the triple constraints? We're looking at three things here. So cost, schedule, scope. We're thinking about cost. You also want to think about human resources, materials, anything that really goes into it to make up that total budget. Schedule, so the amount of time to execute the project, and then scope, what is the actual work that has to be done in order to meet the project objectives? Let's think of the triple constraints as a triangle, where a well-balanced triangle also is a project that's going to be successful. We know exactly what the work is going to be. So that's the scope. And once we know what that looks like, we're able to accurately estimate the cost of the project and the amount of time that it's going to take in order to execute that project. Let's talk about this in reality. We've got this 500 square foot tiny home. We've got the scope. We go out, we're able to accurately estimate the cost as far as the materials, as far as how many human resources you're going to need in order to build it. And with that, we're able to know exactly how long the project is going to take. Well, then the customer at the last minute changes their mind and says, you know what, I really want this 15,000 square foot mansion. There's going to be a big difference if you're comparing a 500 square foot tiny home to a 15,000 square foot mansion. What does that really look like when we're talking about the triple constraints? So here was our well-balanced triangle. We know exactly what the work is, the scope. We're going to build the 500 square foot tiny home. We accurately had the cost estimated. We accurately had the timelines estimated. Well, then, huge wrench, the scope dramatically increases. So now there's going to be a lot more work. We're going to be building something that's much, much bigger. You also need to think about the changes to the cost and the timelines. If you are going to increase your scope of work a significant amount, then your cost is most likely going to increase. In addition, your timelines may or may not increase. We know that there's going to be more materials involved in building a mansion versus a tiny home. So the cost is going to increase regardless. However, if they say, we don't have any more human resources to give you, well, we know that it's going to take a lot longer to build that house as well. That would mean that your timelines will also need to increase. Balancing the triple constraints as a project manager, this is exactly what we're talking about. That you've got to be mindful that any change that comes into the scope, that you're looking at how that affects cost and timelines as well. Want to avoid scope creep, it's a bad thing. So as the scope of work changes, make sure that you've got a formal process for getting it approved. And when you do that, you've looked at how it's going to change your cost and your timelines. I also recommend when you're creating your project charter that you are crystal clear on how you're going to be managing these constraints. Scope, time, budget, or cost. Coming up with a flexibility matrix so that you know what's most flexible, what's least flexible, and what's moderately flexible is really helpful whenever you're trying to make some of those decisions. For example, say you're building your tiny home and you have a grand opening. You've invited all of your friends and family from all over the world, and they're going to be there. So when your tiny home is complete, then they're going to be able to see it. Well, you've switched. Now you're going to build this huge mansion, but everyone's already booked their flights, everyone's already booked their hotels, and you still want to adhere to those timelines. In that specific situation, your timeline would be least flexible, which would mean you'd need to put even more human resources on to get it done faster. So your cost would grow. So some of these things are what you want to think about and talk to your project sponsor about so that everyone's aligned, and as changes come in, you can refer back to it to get those approvals. Again, I'm Candace Porter. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment below and let me know what do you want to hear about in regards to project management topics. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.